Hey, well, g'day. Thanks for dropping by. If you have dropped by, this is the Iron Horse channel. This is not going to be a long show or anything this evening. Oh, already got a few here, eh? Good to see you, Boston Ray Mud Flood Adventures. Cheers for subbing, bro. And Barbara from Yahoo's Daughter Barbara channel. Thanks very much, Saddle Bum. Good to see you again here too, bro. But yeah, I've decided to. I'm just going to do a bit of a rehash of my history of how I got into flat Earth, actually, and just going to be a little bit of a rant about me. Nothing of a big deal. I was trying to tune the guitar up in the interim there, and I left it a bit late to write out some new lyrics to a song that I'll work on for next time, maybe. I've got a short video that I'm going to present here as well, and maybe a bit of a chat about the flat Earth just in general, really. So first of all, happy Australia Day for yesterday, for those of us who celebrate that. Commiserations Invasion Day for those who are into that side of things and dealing with their side of reality. Everything is what it is. It's got a wee little nip of green vodka. Which was going to be the way I started the song, but I realised that the audio on this laptop is nowhere good enough to play music. It just makes me sound 10 times worse than I actually am. So I've also got another special little drink in store for this evening. A work colleague of mine has kindly donated or gifted me a little drink, which I've been reluctant to drink through the week because it looks like knockout shit. Hey, it's what the heck, without any further ado, why not just set down to something anyway? Where is it? Right, yeah. So I've never heard of this one before except through this particular cool young lass who's probably a little bit senior to me. Wild Boar, Kentucky Bourbon and Cola, Bourbon Masters Black Label, 15% alcohol volume. It's going to knock the fucking hairs out of my chest. There we go. That's smooth. That is actually smooth. I'm not one to drink much in the way of bourbon very often. I'll have the odd one here and there. 15%, and that is delicately good. G'day, HE Media. Good to see you again. It's 5:05 p.m. here. So for those of you celebrating the morning, after your bloody luck, the moon will be rising in approximately, I don't know, 3 hours, 4 hours, something like that. We've actually got some massive thunderstorms building up here this afternoon. It's been rumbling and grumbling all afternoon. So it's a great Saturday afternoon to just have a bit of a rant. So I'm going to talk back into I could go way back about where I got into flat Earth, but I think I've explained many a time before how there's a particular book I read, The Secret of the Ages, it was about Hollow Earth. Tried to be a scientific investigation into Hollow Earth from an author's point of view, taking information from a whole heap of different sources. But one of the interesting chapters in it that I've talked about many a time, the Tamarack Mine Mysteries, where they suspended plumb bobs down very deep, long mine shafts to try and measure how much closer together they'd be, so they could measure the circumference of the globe ball that we all believe we lived on. And so they set it all up, did all the measurements, and found every single time that the plumb bobs diverged. They got further apart from one another. And that was not what's supposed to be. So they're thinking of all sorts of different things. What would be the cause? Wind, magnetism, gravity. It could be the gravity of the mine shafts pulling the plumb bobs either side. It's possible, I guess, but why wouldn't it pull both in the same direction? Or, it's all three-dimensional. There's no reason why it should favor one over another if they're just side by side, further apart, whichever direction they faced. Go figure. So eventually they did it in 2 mine shafts, a mile apart, a mile deep, joined together by a vertical mine shaft. Did I get that right? Horizontal mine shaft at the mile depth, took the measurements, and the plumb bobs, after taking every consideration, settling huge iron or non-magnetic bobs in barrels of oil, all the wind currents cut out everything, they found that the Earth was 1 mile, 8 inches apart at the bottom, and 1 mile apart at the top. So it does the exact opposite of what Earth curvature expected. So that first started me on my journey. I think, what the fuck are we living on? If we lived on the inside of the Earth and it was spinning around, a lot of things would make sense. So the plumb bobs are actually getting flung out by centripetal or centrifugal force. Either works. Water is held in by centripetal force against the surface of the Earth. As we're spinning, all the water goes down and outwards. Every body of water could still be flat, but gravity is actually centripetal force pushing everything out in all directions. And so therefore planes taking off and flying inside the interior of the Earth would technically have the atmosphere moving with them because it's enclosed like inside an aeroplane. And so I basically started as a concave earther, I guess you could say, many, many, many years ago. 1 second. Definitely needs a second opinion. And that is really good. Holy shit, Sonia. Oh, I mentioned her name out loud. I was supposed to talk about work out loud. Thank you, Sonia. I'm going to put that in that stubby holder of honor and do it justice. And 15%. RH is here as well. Good to see, bro. Okay, so that's where I started on Flatter, way, way before. Way, way, way back. Then one day while I'm still married, actually, it's all tied in with when I was still married. So one thing led to another when I was cleaning pubs over the years is that I eventually bought into a closing down pet store business. It was something that I just sort of knew I was always going to be gravitated towards. And my partner at the time, when I had 3 beautiful, amazing children with, everywhere we went before we were married and had children, she'd drag me into every pet store we went to. She was just that sort of person. She was mad about pets and had a little aquarium, had a little aviary with some budgies and quails, and so then their little dogs and cat and you name it. So keeping pets and getting into that sort of thing just was a natural thing for me. I had a natural inclination to be a business person. So I found this business closing down. I was able to get in for an absolute steal. Like she was trying to, the woman who had it, I worked with her in the cleaning business before she bought the pet store. She paid about $30,000 for it, which was about a reasonable price for a business back then for what it was, a tiny little business. But she got pregnant, pregnancy, diabetes. The business was never open. So anytime we went there to go and buy some bird seed and stuff, she was never open for one thing. Or when she was, would say, okay, we'd like to order a big bag, 20-kilo bag, buy it in bulk so we can store it and use it. We'd go back to get it, and the order didn't come, or she always had some excuse. She just didn't order the shit. She forgot. She was lazy. Whatever. So the business was failing. So for whatever reason, it was closing down. And when she was closing down, I saw an opportunity, and I said, looked around, did a rough estimate of the stock and the fixtures and everything, and I said, well, would you take $10,000 for it? And she told me to off. So I effed off, and 3 days later she rang me back and said, that offer you made? I said, oh yeah, because I was half-hearted making. I didn't have $10,000. She said, I'll take it. I went, oh, you take it? Holy shit, okay, all right. So we had, between our credit cards, we were able to max out about $5,000. I was able to borrow $5,000 through the parents, and my father, being an accountant, went over the books, and he quickly adds everything up in his head and goes, oh, so $9,000 worth, so it's about $1,000 worth of goodwill, is it? And she just looked shocked. How could he do that so quick? It's just in our genes. Quick thinkers, clued on. And she goes, yeah, okay, that's it, because she just wanted out. She had to get out. It was easier than her just flogging it all up in the markets bit by bit by bit. So I got the pet store. And then I'm still cleaning pubs at 4 a.m. for the first 4 years, mind you, having this business. We'd gotten married. We'd had our first 2 children. In fact, our eldest daughter, she turned 2 on the day we took over the business. And so the ex, she's still, who was then wife, she was still working in nursing homes, and a lot of her shifts were day shifts, and that clashed because at least my cleaning in the morning shift was 4 a.m. I could race home by 8 a.m., help with the getting everything ready, quick shower, coffee, race into work, open the store about 9 o'clock. And in the evenings, I'd be closing it up at 5:30 while she was off picking up the kids at daycare and all the rest. So it was a really mad adventure I went through for many years. And then the process of this, doing all this stuff, I realised, because I was travelling between Byron and Bangalow all the time, we bought our house in Bangalow. Again, thanks to the generosity of my parents who helped us with the deposit. Traveling between there and Byron every day, you just got the most beautiful views over the ocean, easternmost point of Australia, at sunrise in the morning and sunset in the evening. And it's just glorious, mountainous, green, beautiful, just so picturesque. Every day it was just a postcard sort of thing. And when I started seeing them spraying the chemtrails and affecting the weather, that's when her and I started disagreeing on a lot of things. Is that I could see them and I could see the weather being affected by them. She couldn't. I'd point them out to her. I said, can't you see that? Can't you see they're spraying? And look how the weather is changing. And a few years down the track into our having the pet store business, and it's doing quite successfully, we'd moved it several times, because those first 4 years while I'm working cleaning the pubs, all my income from that was going into paying our bills, while all the pet store increase in turnover that we were making all went back into the business. So our business was starting to really thrive. It was becoming quite successful. We moved into the middle of town for a while there until that shopping centre got built out. They built a cinema taking up half our car park, and we couldn't get out of there fast enough. We moved out to an industrial estate. The business was thriving. But then, over that period of time, the business started doing well enough. I was able to give away the cleaning in the morning and spend a little bit more time observing in nature and seeing what's going on with the freaking chemtrails. And it was driving me nuts. And I was a real health freak back then. There's no way I would drink something like this. I can really start to taste the 15% now. Yeah, I was a health freak, totally into health, everything, you name it. And what happened, as I sort of expected would happen with all the chemtrails, is we, in this semi-tropical, rained 300 days of the year place, like we'd get rain for a little bit of time, but then the sun would come out and just be humid. 300 days out of 365 days of the year, Byron Bay, when I lived there originally, 300 days recorded some amount of rain. Well, anyway, the chemtrails began. The conspiracy theories began. I got heavily into it. It also was after 9/11 and all the rest, and I heavily got into that. So nothing came as much of a surprise to me. We went into a massive drought. And at the same time, in the pet store industry, I learned a lot about the different spectrums of light that are used in the aquarium side of things. Like when I took over the business, we had 12 aquariums in the store, and I think maybe 2 or 3 extra fish tanks, a couple of 4-footers and a little 2-footer, 3-footer, separate from all the 2-footers. By the time we set up in the industrial estate, we had over 100 aquariums. About probably 50% would have been just 2-footer aquariums, which are a good size, so you can keep 2 or 3 species of compatible aquarium fish in each one. And then in the bigger aquariums. I had Australian natives, African cichlids, South American cichlids. Had a huge variety of fish. I had some spectacular fish. I had some spectacular, 6x2x2 display tanks, Africans, Americans, and a mix of Aussie natives in some of them. Koi carp, had the lot, had it all going. Knew my shit inside and out, learned so much. So what I learned about the spectrum of light bulbs used in the aquarium industry is that there are different ones used for different things, naturally enough. Some of them are used for plant growth. Some of them are used to bring out the colors of your fish. Some of them are good all-rounders. If you stuck a normal fluorescent tube that you buy at Kmart into your fitting, your tank looked ugly and yellow and no color at all. They were just shit fluorescence. And that's the sort of things most people have in their offices or schools and houses even. The fluorescent bulbs I have here now, these are what you call Aqua 50-50. They're 50-50, so they're a blue light tube. They're as close as you can get to natural daylight, actually. But the first thing I did when I moved into this place, it's got 3 fluorescent tubes in this big open air cathedral-like shed, fitted out beautifully. It's I put in daylight tubes basically, so they're far more natural sort of light, not nearly as bright either, so they're easier on the eyes. Enhances the appearance of your fish tank, helps plant growth, helps everything look more normal and natural. And some fish actually want them to be quite dim because their natural environment is. And at the same time, though, when this drought was starting to happen, massive drought, unheard of in Byron Bay. 3 years of drought, huge water restrictions, had to go and spend a huge amount on a specialised water filter because the water quality coming through from what we call Rocky Creek Dam, it was giving our fish disease. It had so much chlorine and chloramine in it that even though we have chemicals that can treat that to convert them to make them neutral, basically the water quality itself was so shit and so full of disease, despite all the chemicals they were putting into it. I had to beg, borrow, and argue constantly with the acts about we have to buy this filter. And it was a $2,200 filter. It's a huge amount of money for a small business to have to outlay on a water filter. I'd buy one in a nanosecond again, except they discontinued them. This one was so good. It had a backwash facility. So after you'd used it for so long, you'd put the backwash on and you could flush it even with hot water. And it would flush all the yuck back out again, and then you could start all over again. It had some sort of lava rock stuff in it and magnets that turned the water into a living water. And all of a sudden, in the thick of this huge drought, our fish was healthier than they've ever been. They were super happy. They had the best water quality you could imagine. And so I told her it was money worth spending. Like we saved it in a matter of a month as opposed to the amount of stock we would have lost. So it's a no-brainer. We had to have it. Awesome, awesome filter, but they discontinued it basically because a lot of other idiot customers wouldn't backwash them often enough in time. And so they got bacterial buildup and stuff. And so the product became known as a health hazard, even though it was the best filter money could ever buy. And I so regret that I didn't take it when I left from the business. I got booted out. But that's the way it goes. Awesome, awesome water quality. But at the same time, too, in the drought, all the bird breeders, because we dealt with a lot of the bird breeders, even though we didn't actually sell a lot of the birds because we didn't get licensed to sell exotics like those big macaw parrots and all that sort of stuff. We could sell all the Aussie natives, your budgies, you could sell galahs, corellas, but our main trade was budgies and cockatiels. They were our biggest ones. A few quail and stuff. They make good pets. And as much as I hated keeping birds in captivity, it went against everything I stood for. At the same time, I also knew that these birds had been bred in captivity for so long that if we were to release them back into the wild, first of all, they wouldn't be accepted by their own kind because they've been bred for exotic different looks. And we've got these birds around here, beautiful birds, but they're savage, called butcher birds. Good name for them. Beautiful birds, beautiful song, but they just clean them up. clean them up, they'll eat them, they'll dispose of them. So you can't release captive bred animals back into the wild. Once they've been captive bred for so many generations, you either look after them and give them a good life, maybe de-sex them, or maybe stop them from breeding until they die out. You can do that, but basically it is what it is. That's the pet industry. And that's why I myself got out of it, because I couldn't stand it. At the end of the day, is I realized all these things belong in the wild. They belong to their own kind, be brought up by their own kind, face the perils of nature that fine-tune them for what they are. But you know, a lame one or a injured one, whatever, you could take it in and rear it. If it couldn't be released as in the wild, it becomes a pet. That's the way human pet animal relationships should work. And if they choose to be with you, that's fine. That's how I see pets find us. I've got a cat now, and I have to prevent it from hunting the birds, but he's comfortably sleeping at my feet. So that was my experience with the pet industry. And okay, back to the birds again, is that these professional bird breeders during this drought time were finding that their birds just weren't breeding. And you know, they sort of relied on that little bit of extra income. Like he's selling macaw for about $5,000. I think they were even going for up to $8,000 a piece back then. So every time that they bred a couple of eggs, that's like almost a year's income for some people. Yeah, like I never made more than 26 grand back then. That was like, if I could get a clutch of 3 birds, rear them successfully, everything else from the rest of the year then would be a bonus. So it takes a lot of pressure off you if you can make a bit of income from breeding exotic birds. And so when I went to one of these pet expos up in Brisbane, that's when I first got introduced to this new idea that they were just bringing into the, what I call it, the avionic trade. So you've got aquatic for fish and avionic for birds. So in the avionic side of things is they bring in new fluorescent tubes that you could put inside your aviaries that would give the right spectrums of light that would encourage the birds to breed. And I thought, well, that's bloody brilliant, isn't it? Because whatever they were spraying in the sky was blocking out those spectrums of light, so the birds weren't breeding. Now, obviously, it could be also then related to the weather. You know, you can't rule out that factor, is that the birds are aware that it's a drought, and so you don't breed during a drought because you've got less chance of successfully rearing your young when there is a drought. But how would captive bred birds that aren't even from Australia, macaws are a South American bird, how would they recognise a drought in Australia? And obviously birds aren't stupid. A lot of people think stupid birds, but actually no. Anything that's surviving in the wild on its own is highly attuned, highly aware, far more in tune with nature than most people I have ever met. You know, some of the local Aboriginals that I met when I was down in Byron, sometimes formerly known as Cavenbar, down in the parks, those guys were tuned in. They're seeing things happening on the streets we couldn't see. And these are guys are parkies, that's what they were mostly called. They live in the parks, but they are tuned in on a different spectrum, like people that live on the streets today. They're tuned into a different way, they're streetwise. Whereas most people living in houses, working their jobs, driving cars, all that sort of stuff, like me, we're not aware on the same sort of level that anything living out in nature is finely tuned into all the time. You know, they might be sitting there asleep on their perch, but at a moment's notice, they can fly off or whatever. So these birds in captivity, they're not breeding. I put 2 and 2 together with the chemtrails. Very few other people were, but I was putting it together with the chemtrails, causing both the drought and the change in the spectrums of light. And much to my own chagrin, I was also quite fond of a little bit of a chuff back in the day, you know, a little pipe, sometimes a water pipe, whatever it took. I didn't smoke a lot. I smoked a little here, a little there, and a little there. 6 in the morning, 12 midday, 3 in the afternoon. You know what I mean? But I just took a little bits here and there of the green herb that Mother Nature gave us. And it was good. But when the chemtrailing started up, because I was so health aware and so health conscious and filtered all my water and ate no red meat, drank no alcohol for a vast period of the time, although I think I might have drank a little bit time to time. I went through a long period where I drank none at all. I was that Mr. Natural, as you could say. Within a year of the chemtrail starting up, my good bush weed that I was growing, it disagreed with me. I'm going, no, this isn't right. And it did wrong things in my brain where it used to do right things. And I put it specifically down to the aluminium sulfates, the number one thing that is being sprayed in the atmosphere. And I wasn't happy, not happy at all. I mean, what can you do? They're spraying our entire atmosphere all the time with these chemicals, aluminium sulfates, barium, strontium, you name it. All the things that can get me barred from YouTube for saying out loud, because I have had a strike before for even, I think, using the words. So I can't give any medical advice whatsoever, and I'm not doing that. I'm absolutely not. All I can say is that in my mind, all I could see is this shit is going into our water, it's going into our food, it's going into our air, it's going into every single thing. And I was really, really annoyed, fucking pissed off. And what could I do about it? I talked to my wife about it, and she thought I was nuts. She couldn't even see the chemtrails. She couldn't even put 2 and 2 together that the reason we've got the drought and the birds aren't breeding and our fish are getting sick is all related to our environment, the weather. You know, this is the one thing about what chemtrails is all about. Control the weather. You control the world. You control everything. You control every crop. You control the health of the people. You control whether people get floods or droughts or bushfires. And don't get me started on the bushfires. That's another thing. But so I realized, you know, like as much as I wanted to perhaps, you know, think of some sort of air-powered projectile thing to take those planes out, as it turns out, a lot of those planes are actually passenger planes who are releasing the chemtrails. And I did a lot of study into what was going on with these things back in the time. And I, through the fact that I was writing letters to my local newspaper, the Byron Shire Echo, which you can still get today. They still put out a published printed paper version once a week, and you can see the online Echo, Byron Shire Echo, every day. You can subscribe to it and get it in your emails. I still do, and occasionally write letters to it to this day. I was writing letters back then describing what I'm seeing and making predictions of what I'm saying is going to happen over the coming Easter weekend, because I'd seen it the year before. I predict this is going to happen. We're going to get this festival weather event. People are going to get extremely sick. And then after that, things will sort of go back to normal. And what do you know? The paper published my letter. People contacted me. People contacted me. And some of these people were a little bit what you'd consider on the fringe of normalcy. I think that's a good way of putting it, because that's what I hope to think I am as well. You know, I'd hate to ever think that I was normal. That one who contacted me, one of the first things she said is everybody thinks she's crazy. Her family rejects her and all the rest of them. And I was like, You don't seem crazy to me. And she goes, oh, I'm not. But I'm very psychic, is what she said to me. And I said, She didn't actually need to tell me. Anyway, so I sympathized with her extremely well. And she was trying to start a chemtrail awareness group in Byron, but she's, you know how these people get. Sometimes some of them just want to be like the head of something, some sort of movement and all this stuff. To me, I just couldn't see it happening. I was just like, I'm aware of it, but it's something beyond our capability. We're talking about the world's greatest military air forces and some hippies trying to live in peace, So the only thing I could really see as a defense is, it started on a small scale, is I used to drink a heck of a lot of fruit juice because I believed that fruit was really good for you, and I didn't understand that drinking fruit juice reconstituted with fluoridated, chlorinated water was probably messing with my mind as well. To me, on the budget I was at, I used to get the reconstituted fruit juice at the supermarket, and I'd go through 3-4 of the 2 litre or 3 litre plastic juice bottles a week. Between me and the kids, and the ex, that was sort of my drink of choice because I thought better than. Anyway, not trying to make excuses here, but the bottles, I just recycle them in my recycle bin every week. And I thought, hang on a sec, what about if we could mold these bottles with, just superheated air? So I was always a greenie. So I'm thinking you can't use too much energy. So superheated air, mold them into a bit of a press to make them into a kind of a Lego block type thing so they could lock into one another. You could eventually build a protective dome over your house. So all the water that normally fell on the gutters of your houses or your gardens, you've got an umbrella. You're protecting them from all the chemical fallout, all the residue. That's how it started for me. And eventually that grew to a far more logical and better idea is why not do the entire town in massive glass blocks? They take all the recycled glass and make huge big wedges, like a meter thick. And you want them not too big, so they're just wedges that a person can easily carry and lift into place with enough sort of Lego block type locking pieces to stop them sliding. And just lift them in and cover up an entire town in a huge glass dome. That's how I started thinking about domes. So that is the subject of this video. And so the very first video I made, because I will admit, even though I successfully ran a business dealing with the public, I was the local town vet for nearly most things, except serious things people had to take their dogs or cats to the vet for, is most people would come to us first because we were able to give good advice and sell decent products that could treat most non-serious things. Serious things, different story. The vets, huge respect for them, but they're another money-making business, and they're making most of their money from selling yearly vaccinations that I didn't believe that animals even needed. I had to, by law, have all my puppies and kittens vaccinated, and they started the microchipping while I had the business. So I was at the beginning of the microchipping stuff, so I know quite a lot about that as well. And I didn't even mention one of the other people that met me. I could rant and rave for fucking hours. And I just thought this would be a short little rant. I might just have a quick look at some of the chat. But no, I've missed quite a bit. I've also got a ding shout out to Byron Bay. Thanks, bro. Yeah. Cheers for coming. It's weird with glasses, like blurry with them off, blurry with them on until I get to about here, and then the writing gets too small. I think I'm ready to change my prescription. So Quaalude, Quaalude Charlie, who I have to take them off and just look closer. Funniest thing I saw in Australia, this is from Barbara. Kangaroos boxing in the wild. You didn't see feet involved. Oh, God. I used to have them doing them in my backyard when I was living up the road here. Come out some mornings and there's like a big, they've arranged it. I don't know. There's a dozen of them or something, and they've got a big boxing ring going. And yeah, I could just hear it for ages. And I knew if I went out and looked, I'd disturb them, and I did, which is a shame. So I would have loved to watch, but you could just hear them thump with their back legs, and they get back on their tail, thump in the chests. And then you see one trying to grab the head and rip it off. They're fucking maniacs, the kangaroos. So yeah, just seeing a little punch up, that'd be something. You should see them when they fully go. It's unbelievable. Tough animals. Big respect to them. Oh, you have to hold a koala. Koalas aren't bears. Don't call them bears. We jokingly call them drop bears, but much can a koala bear. No longer on the ball. G'day, bro. See ya. How long have I missed that for? Only 11 minutes. That's all right. Cool. I'm not going to read out through everything because I'm just having a rant here. I'll get too off track. But so this is cool. Good bunch of people here. No trolls. Nothing to cool. Even Barbara says that Peter Kirby has a great book on chemtrails. I probably could have written one or two myself. Yeah, the things I've seen with chemtrails and the things I've heard, because I used to talk with a lot of my customers in the pet store. Byron's a very sort of, how do you do, enlightened sort of area in many instances, but it's a weird thing. Enlightenment tends to make you a drop out from society, which then makes you rejected from society, which then makes you sort of seem, I don't know, like a homeless bar sort of thing. You know what I mean? And yet some of them are the most enlightened, knowledgeable people who, if we could put them in charge of stuff of the world, we would have a really good world. So I really think maybe that's something I've never even considered the pursuit of before. We should find our world leaders on the streets, homeless, destitute, but wise. They are the people we need to rule the world, not these rich go-getters who've played the game, who basically run over everybody's feet they've come up to in life to get to the top. They're the last people we want running the world. Go figure. The go-getters. Let's go get rid of them. So we'll get back to where I'm at on track, because so obviously I realise we can't take out the chemtrail planes, but we can protect ourselves from them. And so I think this is where I a very shy person. I'm no longer as shy as I used to be, but I am, because I'm a very sensitive person. I had some experiences, even though I was quite popular and intellectual and everything, and I went to the US just after I turned 16 as an exchange student for a year. While I was over there's a lot of pressure, because I went over just after Crocodile Dundee movie had come out. So Australia was like the most popular thing in the world. And so I'm just like riding on the crest of that. I went to Northern California. I was loving it. But when it came to public speaking, I was no experience. I was not good at it. If I get in front of a crowd, every nerve starts shaking, my breathing stops. And then as a result of my breathing and my shaking and all the nerves and stuff, I'm basically the body goes into overdrive and it looks as I'm crying. And it's not a good look. It didn't happen all the time, thank fuck, because I had some really good experiences. But when it did happen, just through a normal everyday, we had to do an English presentation. We had to read out the story we wrote or whatever. We had to do a speech. And when I got up there, for whatever reason, the nerves took over and I utterly sucked and failed and felt so little that it affected me. Highly sensitive person, always been highly sensitive all my life, you know. The beard's just a good front. But since I was little, highly, super sensitive. So after that, I just could not do public speaking at all, at all. I gave up a lot of marks in my HSC, which we do in Australia, high school certificate. When you're doing year 11 and 12, I gave up 10% of my English mark because I refused to do the public speaking, even though they said you can do it at lunchtime in front of the children, in front of the teachers. You know, just a few of the teachers will sit there and just listen to your speech, and I still couldn't do it. I just, no, I'm not doing it. It was just outside of my realm of experience. I was withdrawn, and I spent a lot of my life like that. So this little video I'm about to play here now, you know, I tried to get out of my shell by playing guitar. You know, I was a terrible singer. Sucked at it. I wasn't a very good guitarist either, but I would just do it for the experience. And eventually I got, okay, I can do an okay song. But what I did is, or what I couldn't do, is talk to the camera, just like I'm doing here now. I could not do that. I could not set the phone in front of me and speak. If I had a script written out, I could read it. And that's why you've seen on 99% of modern day debates that I've been on, when I do my opening thing, I read. And if I miss a word, I'm lost. You know, I'm not a good public speaker. I can do it now because I'm chilled, I'm relaxed, and I'm getting more and more experienced at it. This video here I'm going to show you, it's not on my Iron Horse channel until I do this. This is my very first awareness and ability to speak live to the camera. And so I'm going to present it and sit and laugh at myself and listen to what I say.
You know the day destroys the night.
I'll have to sing the start.
Night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side.
Still couldn't whistle either.
I think I've cracked it. I think I have discovered the secret. I know it's weird because I'm not great at public speaking at all.
And I will preempt this by saying I didn't listen to this before starting this video either. I haven't listened to this in years and years, or I don't know when I last listened to it. It was at least a couple of years ago. So for me, this is re-experiencing a different guy speaking from at least 10 years ago. Same body, just a lot less handsome back then.
I'm terrible at it. I can barely fathom a coherent thought and voice it at the same time, which is why I'm a writer. I write. I can put things into words. I have a bit of a gift for that. I'm very grateful for. But the thing,
I would just like to say, on behalf of myself, I'm proud of you, dude. Fuck. This was coming out of my shell. Wow.
yes, I've just been watching this video about how do you explain unity consciousness. And there is magic in words. Key. You sing in key. You unlock things with a key. You strum a chord. And I love that story about Jesus. Like, a lot of people argue backwards and forwards whether Jesus even existed. I mean, what does it matter? It was 2,000 years ago, and it's a great story. If you read as much as you can about the man, it doesn't matter if he's made up or not. The things he did. He overturned the bankers' tables in the temples. He took a cord and he whipped them. And that is what we are here to do. Moses set his people free. They were slaves. And that is what we are. We are slaves. And we are just finally starting to get it, understand it, and realize we're not free at all. We're more productive simply because we get to choose our own careers, and we have to pay for our own housing, our own food, our own clothing. Back in the day when they owned slaves, they at least provided those basics for them. We got to do it all for ourselves. We spend our whole lives doing it to the point that we have no lives. And that's no life. That's no way to live. And so I have come to set you free.
Cool, man. Fucking hell. I've come to set you free. Jeez, man, I was so nervous, but I had found the confidence to find my voice. Wow. I love seeing 10-year-old me.
And you find freedom when you find the truth. The truth can set you free. Only the truth.
Amen.
And sometimes you have to dig deep, which is what they did at the Tamarack mines near Calamoup, Michigan. They did it in several places, but the truth is, when they suspended plumb bobs deep into these long, deep mine shafts, they were doing it to better calculate the circumference of the planet, because that was just the scientific purpose at the time. And the plumb bobs get further apart the deeper they go. We've been told for hundreds of years now that we're living on a ball spinning through space at ridiculous speeds.
I just have to stop and say, yeah, I know exactly how you feel no longer on the ball. I probably couldn't today. If I was actually put in front of a live audience, you know, like up on a stage in front of people, I doubt. Well, actually, I don't doubt any longer. I think that's the thing about the truth setting you free. I once freaked at the very idea. And if I had to think about it too much, I would probably get the jitters and everything. But there's a possibility it could be done. And Barbara, I think, yeah, you understand it as well. Probably should have even hit that thing. I forget to hit that sometimes when talking about somebody's comment. And then this one too. Yeah, the beauty of the internet too, I think, has changed things a lot, is because we can have a worldwide internet, a worldwide audience. Mental blank. You can have a worldwide audience at any given moment, but still be sitting in the comfort of your room, as I am right now, and you can speak quite comfortably, openly and freely about things that you probably wouldn't even talk about in front of a close personal friend. if they were sitting there in person, because I'm just sitting to a computer screen and I'm seeing names come up, people I'm familiar with, and they're writing comments. But technically speaking, you're not really here, you're there, but we are all here. So it's I think I even mentioned that from the start of this rant about collective consciousness. The internet is creating a collective consciousness, which I guess is building up a communal voice that does give the confidence to be able to speak. Because as I said, I could not speak. This is my first attempt at speaking. And I think what I was saying here actually is we're going to take it back just a tiny, tiny sec, because I think there was something
Long,
there.
deep mine shafts. They're doing it to better calculate the circumference of the planet, because that was just the scientific purpose of the time. And the plumb bobs get further apart the deeper they go.
Speak loud.
We've been told for hundreds of years now that we're living on a ball spinning through space at ridiculous speeds. And that, yeah, if it suddenly stopped, we'd just go flying off. But because we're all moving and everything's moving with it, that we just accept it. And it's the biggest lie ever. Think about it. Like, you can do experiments on a small scale just with anything, like anything that moves. You can see the pure physics of it. Things, look, I'm not here to debate gravity or any of that sort of thing. We know it exists. But we also know that a thing in motion remains in motion. Say you took a tennis ball, put a string through it, dipped it in water and spun it around. The water is going to go flying off because that's what happens on the outside surface of something moving fast. Yet on Earth, the water keeps sinking down. And we say, well, there, because it's already in motion with the planet. But the water is a liquid. It is separate from the planet. It is not already in motion. It is its own motion. It seeks flatness. It always does. It always will. So if we're spinning on this ball, the water doesn't keep moving with us. It has no reason to. You have to give things a reason to do something, or they don't do it. You know, there's logic behind everything. And just to accept the fact, oh, well, it's all in motion, including the atmosphere, it doesn't make sense. You cannot...
Fuck yeah. My very first time I could open up and talk to the camera because I'd gained enough confidence. And I'm basically telling the entire flat Earth's truth right from the start. The atmosphere and the water and everything moving with the spinning space ball does not make sense. That's what gave me a voice.
Keep believing bullshit. The only way the atmosphere would keep moving with us was if it was in a sealed container, like a giant glass ball all around us, which is quite possible. That would be the only explanation for why the atmosphere moves with a planet hurtling through the galaxy at phenomenal speeds. So if we understand that everything is a lie, and then we begin to study the flatness of the Earth, that the water always seeks a level. If you're on a round planet, that water is making a mighty big lump, and water doesn't lump, it flattens. So we cannot be on the outside of a ball. It is as simple as that. So you have to realize, what else have we been lied to about? Now, for many years, I've been thinking of solutions to, I see, it's not just chemtrails alone, but that was the biggest inspiration because I've seen them
See, even then, I knew to be careful about saying the key words because I don't think Facebook even existed back then when I started this one. Might have been. I doubt it. Might have been in the beginning. Oh, let me think. I made the Ishtar ale. That's what I call the first really amazing home brew that I made when I got back into it. And this is what I'm drinking here. I know for a fact. You will see me raise a glass of it shortly. This is like 9 in the morning here too. It's my day off. I can remember that much. And I was drinking Ishtar ale when I woke up because the glass was still sitting next to the bed. And it was amazing, amazing, potent herbal mead type drink. It had a lot in it. Nothing even illegal, all just really good herbal stuff you can actually get if you know what you're doing. And what I made in that was phenomenal. I lost the recipe. That recipe is worth fucking thousands. But anyway, long story short is here I am just making my first rant into a phone. Finally got the confidence. 9 in the morning, drinking a fucking beer. And I never drank beer at that time of the day. I swear to God. Back then, I might do it once or twice. An hour. I'm kidding. I only do it a little bit. But wow. I'm going to go through some of this again, actually.
Manipulating the weather. I've seen the effects of people getting sick after certain spray times. And regardless of that, there's still a lot of pollution in the air. And it's not good for our health. The most important thing, the most fundamental reason for being is to be healthy, to be happy. The pursuit of happiness, that is why we are here. And you cannot pursue happiness if you're not healthy, if you're being poisoned, if you are... The point is, we need to fix our ill health, to work on ourselves. And we can't do that in a polluted world. We have to end the pollution. So my way of thinking, all this got to get off grid. I came up with this solution many years back that if we build giant glass domes, which can be done, I've mapped out plans for that. It's pretty simple really. You make Lego type pieces, not actually Lego, but wedge type blocks that would slot into one another, and it'd be pretty simple to run a computer program to design this, but you just build glass blocks.
It'd be even easier today now with things like freaking AutoCAD and 3D this and 3D that. You can pretty much 3D print the bloody box out of molten glass in exactly the shape you want. It would be so much easier today than what I was thinking back then.
So that it can be easily lifted by a person, slot them into one another, and you keep building up and up and up and round and round and round until finally it closes at the top. It's a big dome. It's the strongest structure known to mankind, and glass would last pretty much forever. It would.
I will qualify that with the fact that the pyramid is the strongest structure known to mankind. If you build it out of big bricks and stack them like a pyramid, that is actually strongest. The dome is the second strongest. And if you make the dome geometrically perfect, then the weight of every block redistributing down onto the others, which is why we see it in arches and you name it, a lot of old architecture in the domes they built, is that they know that the weight distribution of a dome is actually the second strongest structure known to mankind. And the difference between a dome and a pyramid is a dome has far more living area inside of it, whereas a pyramid Doesn't really have much at all. You get a little chamber and that's it. But it can preserve life quite well. And in fact, if we're going to go to that, just extrapolate just a slight little eggs factor. I couldn't help myself. An egg is the perfect dome. So that's the eggs factor. Sorry, couldn't help myself. It's the dome, man. And if you've seen some of the videos I've done, which some might have seemed completely random and out of context, and no reason why I should have done it, like when I was living back at the block over there in the caravan, and I got home and I had an egg, and I just did a little demonstration while I'm still sitting inside my work unit about how vortex energy works. It was very important. And yet it was probably the most random video that most people haven't even seen. The vortex energy of an egg, you stick the fat end through the ring of your fingers, the fat end will pass through no problem. You try and stick the skinny end through, it gets stuck. That's vortex energy. The large end goes through first and creates a separation for everything else to go through. That's vortex energy. So this was the beginning of my journey. Domes.
Last longer than the pyramids. Now this dome then becomes a geodesic dome. You don't have anything burning inside it to start with. You just have plants that produce pure air, pure oxygen. And the water is constantly purified by the power of the sun. It evaporates up to the surface, inner surface of the dome. It flows back down to be collected. You have pure water. You could virtually live in a very pure environment. You could, go through lots of cleansing things, prevent, insects you didn't want involved, prevent germs, prevent all sorts of things from entering in the first place through purity. And you could keep building more and more and more of these domes.
See, now this gets me thinking, because there was a really interesting story some years back too, the Thea Uber prophecies. I doubt I could even spell that now. Thea Uber. But it's well worth looking up if you can find it. It was written by an Australian guy. He thought that he's been abducted by aliens, and they didn't even try and pretend that they weren't. And they used some theory saying, oh, well, now because of better technology, it doesn't take us as long to get to the outer lands. But they're traveling to outer lands. It was introduced to some place, whether it be called Thea Uber or not. It's THIAO, Thea, Thea, THIA, OOUBA, Thea Uber prophecies. I guess if autocorrect might help you find it. It's just an interesting story. It doesn't take them so long to get to wherever they're going. But the interesting thing I find about it, and I've seen in some recent pictures where people have tended to fabricate some images from beyond the ice wall, but the buildings are egg-shaped. And this is very important. Egg-shaped buildings, dome-shaped buildings. It's the strongest structure for internal space. There's plenty of pictures of them, and whether the egg is this, the thin end up there or the thick end up there or whatever, I don't know. But the thing that gets me about it is because so many of the parts of the Thea Uber prophecies were relevant to what I was going through about water quality and air quality and so on. But the interesting factor is that when you sit inside one of these egg-shaped buildings, it gives you the appearance of being on the outside. And from the outside, you've got complete and perfect privacy because it looks like an egg. And so this got me thinking about when I'm going to be making my airship to go across Antarctica, and I don't want to be detected, what would be the best way to make myself appear invisible is what I would do is I'd make my egg-shaped blimp, the wing across the top. I'd have little projectors under the tips of the wings with a camera on either side. And the camera on that side would project into the, would relay the image into the projector on this side to project onto the dome this way. And the one on that side would project their image, the one on that side, onto the blimp from this side, and that would make it effectively invisible from the outside. I mean, you might see some tiny little projectors whizzing through the air, but basically your entire air blimp vehicle would appear invisible if you're projecting exactly what's on the other side onto that surface. That's what you're going to see. And from that side onto that side, you've basically got virtual invisibility. So if the people living then inside these egg houses do a similar sort of thing, but they just project what's outside that side and what's outside that side on the inside walls, it will give them the appearance of being outside while they're safely inside, protected from the weather. So, yeah, I get inspiration from a lot of different sources.
In a circle of life pattern. What if they've already done that? What if I just haven't thought of anything original at all?
Take that back a second.
Just have plants that produce
Wish I could turn that on.
pure oxygen. And the water is constantly purified by the power of the sun. It evaporates up to the surface, inner surface of the dome. It flows back down to be collected. You have pure water. You could virtually live in a very pure environment. You could, go through lots of cleansing things, prevent, insects you didn't want involved, prevent germs, prevent all sorts of things from entering in the first place through purity. And you could keep building more and more and more of these domes in a circle of life pattern. What if they've already done that? What if I just haven't thought of anything original at all? What if we are inside the dome and we're just soiling our own nest? I'll be back later.
I definitely will be back later, eh? Far out. That was my very, very first ability to speak to the camera because the truth had set me free. And that very last bit about the parasites and the insects and that sort of stuff in the Thea Uber prophecy, that I'll have to look that up again. It's been a long time since I've read it. But in the Thea Uber prophecy, one of the things that he had to go through before he could travel into these outer lands was a certain period of days where he had to be going through a cleansing and parasite removal process. So it makes me think that maybe Middle Earth, the one we live in, maybe this is the only realm where we have all these parasites. We have these intestinal worms, we've got ticks and insects and all this sort of stuff. And even our blood could be coursing with a whole range of parasites who are sucking the life out of us. Once we get outside of this Antarctic realm, I wonder if I can just make that bigger for a second and give a look at that. That's the world we live in. What if once we get beyond that and all that freezing air and all that sort of stuff could be part of the cleansing process, but even so, the people in the outlying lands might still be afraid of the fact that we're carrying a lot of parasites and stuff that are foreign to them. So we have to go into a sort of a quarantine to eradicate all the internal parasites we all suffer from. And I've no doubt, every single last one of us are teeming with them. But that's one of the reasons why we're not permitted free passage. But perhaps there's going to be an exodus coming soon where we might be allowed en masse to exit this prison planet full of parasites realm. I'm thinking it's possible. I'm thinking it's entirely possible, because my whole idea of building the domes in the first place and then creating a flower of life pattern of them in desert regions across Australia was that each and every single time we build one, we make sure we got no parasites, no ticks, no biting insects, no intestinal worms. If you want to enter into it, it's going to take you a 1 to 2 week quarantine period to eradicate and eliminate, do some little harm to do more good, maybe even, take some poisons to get rid of them all. And then eventually you can eliminate the poisons, no harm, no foul. Eventually you're going to create an environment where people live for a very long time. Because eradicate the parasites, eradicate the diseases, living in perfect temperature-controlled environments, all the nutritional requirements you need right there, grown inside, creating the perfect air for the perfect environment. Technically, you can live forever. And that creates its own problem, doesn't it? But we can go into that another time. And I'm just glad I could introduce that introductory video to my coming out of my shell, so to speak. Just read some comments now. I know there was somebody commented, not here tonight, but on one of my recent videos, who said they'd like to discuss with me live. I wonder if I can do that. I wonder if I can. Paste that into there and see what happens. Let's see if I don't want to ban myself or put me in the timeout. Shit. Is there any options they give me? That's a bit rude. Barbara, your son come home with lice in 84. Well, my youngest was born in 99. Eldest in 96. I had 3 in 3 years. 96, 97, 99. I know that's like 88 in there, but 98, but you know what I mean. So I can't quite read that. Got to hit the hay, hit the garage tomorrow. No worries, Lyle. No longer on the ball, bro. Thanks for dropping by, man. As I said, it was just an unimportant rant. I'm just wanted to rant about my very first rant coming out with Shell. So I'm just glad you could be here. Appreciate it. Have a good one and all the best. And I'll scroll up and see what other ones have missed. Not a I like that one. No longer on the ball says, "This is unique, Iron Horse. Having yourself as a guest on your show has got to be a first." Thanks, man. I reckon so too. Like, honestly, I was looking forward to the day. Sometimes you ask yourself a question. They do this as one of those things you do one day. It's like, what would you tell yourself to your younger self if you could leave a note to your younger self? So now to tell them something that they didn't know back then. Well, to me, this is sort of like the opposite. It's like this is something because I have a few short-term memory issues. I will admit. I don't even know what I did last week, but this is something I did like 10 years ago, and I can remember bits and pieces of it. But something about it is wrong. Something about it is wrong. Mandela got to it. I specifically remember the first rant I did is I had a big 10 cart of beer. I had a big 10 cart of beer in my hand. I'm going to see. We can't even play any. I'll play this in the background then from the start.
You know the day destroys the night. Night divides the day.
I'll go look for it.
Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side. I think I've cracked it. I think I have discovered the secret. I know it's weird because I'm not great at public speaking at all. I'm terrible at it. I can barely fathom a coherent thought and voice it at the same time, which is why I'm a writer. I write. I can put things into words. I have a bit of a gift for that. I'm very grateful for. But the thing is, yes, I've just been watching this video about how do you explain unity consciousness, and there is magic in words. Key. You sing in key. You unlock things with a key. You strum a chord. And I love that story about Jesus. Like, a lot of people argue backwards and forwards whether Jesus even existed. I mean, what does it matter? It was 2,000 years ago, and it's a great story. If you read as much as you can about the man, it doesn't matter if he's made up or not. The things he did. He overturned the bankers' tables in the temples. He took a cord and he whipped them. And that is what we are here to do. Moses set his people free. They were slaves. And that is what we are. We are slaves. And we are just finally starting to get it, understand it, and realize we're not free at all. We're more productive simply because we get to choose our own careers, and we have to pay for our own housing, our own food, our own clothing. Back in the day when they owned slaves, they at least provided those basics for them. We got to do it all for ourselves. We spend our whole lives doing it to the point that we have no lives. And that's no life. That's no way to live. And so I have come to set you free. And you find freedom when you find the truth. The truth can set you free. Only the truth. And sometimes you have to dig deep, which is what they did at the Tamarack Mines near Calamoup, Michigan. They did it in several places, but the truth is, when they suspended plumb bobs deep into these long, deep mine shafts, they were doing it to better calculate the circumference of the planet, because that was just the scientific purpose of the time. And the plumb bobs get further apart the deeper they go. We've been told for hundreds of years now that we're living on a ball spinning through space at ridiculous speeds. And that, yeah, if it suddenly stopped, we'd just go flying off. But because we're all moving and everything's moving with it, that we just accept it. And it's the biggest lie ever. Think about it. Like, you can do experiments on a small scale just with anything, like anything that moves. You can see the pure physics of it. Things, look, I'm not here to debate gravity or any of that sort of thing. We know it exists. But we also know that a thing in motion remains in motion. Say you took a tennis ball, put a string through it, dipped it in water and spun it around. The water is going to go flying off because that's what happens on the outside surface of something moving fast. Yet on Earth, the water keeps sinking down. And we say, well, there, because it's already in motion with the planet. But the water is a liquid. It is separate from the planet. It is not already in motion. It is its own motion. It seeks flatness. It always does. It always will. So if we're spinning on this ball, the water doesn't keep moving with us. It has no reason to. You have to give things a reason to do something, or they don't do it. You know, there's logic behind everything. And just to accept the fact, oh, well, it's all in motion, including the atmosphere, it doesn't make sense. You cannot keep believing bullshit. The only way the atmosphere would keep moving with us was if it was in a sealed container, like a giant glass ball all around us, which is quite possible. That would be the only explanation for why the atmosphere moves with a planet hurtling through the galaxy at phenomenal speeds. So if we understand that everything is a lie, and then we begin to study the flatness of the Earth, that the water always seeks a level. If you're on a round planet, that water is making a mighty big lump, and water doesn't lump, it flattens. So we cannot be on the outside of a ball. It is as simple as that. So you have to realize, what else have we been lied to about? Now, for many years, I've been thinking of solutions to, I see, it's not just chemtrails alone, but that was the biggest inspiration because I've seen them manipulating the weather. I've seen the effects of people getting sick after certain spray times. And regardless of that, there's still a lot of pollution in the air. And it's not good for our health. The most important thing, the most fundamental reason for being is to be healthy, to be happy. The pursuit of happiness, that is why we are here. And you cannot pursue happiness if you're not healthy, if you're being poisoned, if you are... The point is, we need to fix our ill health, to work on ourselves. And we can't do that in a polluted world. We have to end the pollution. So my way of thinking, all this got to get off grid. I came up with this solution many years back that if we build giant glass domes, which can be done, I've mapped out plans for that. It's pretty simple, really. You make Lego type pieces, not actually Lego, but wedge type blocks that would slot into one another, and it'd be pretty simple to run a computer program to design this, but you just build glass blocks that it can be easily lifted by a person, slot them into one another, and you keep building up and up and up and round and round and round until finally it closes at the top. It's a big dome. It's the strongest structure known to mankind, and glass would last pretty much forever. It would last longer than the pyramids. Now this dome then becomes a geodesic dome. You don't have anything burning inside it to start with. You just have plants that produce pure air, pure oxygen. And the water is constantly purified by the power of the sun. It evaporates up to the surface, inner surface of the dome. It flows back down to be collected. You have pure water. You could virtually live in a very pure environment. You could, go through lots of cleansing things, prevent, insects you didn't want involved, prevent germs, prevent all sorts of things from entering in the first place through purity. And you could keep building more and more and more of these domes in a circle of life pattern. What if they've already done that? What if I just haven't thought of anything original at all? What if we are inside the dome and we're just soiling our own nest? I'll be back later.
Well, then, now that sucks because I just gave out a huge, big shout out. I'm sorry I was muted. Thanks so much, Saddlebum, for pointing that out to me because I probably would not have even realized. I probably would have talked for the next 10 or 15 minutes without realizing I was muted. So appreciate that so much. And I'm just giving a big shout out to Barbara. What an awesome, awesome, awesome woman of the earth that she is. She's got 7 children. And I'll put that back up again because I was talking about it. Her youngest is 11, adopted from 4 years ago when she's obviously 7 from Russia. And she makes your heart smile and she makes my heart smile. You make my heart smile. Barbara, you're just an amazing, amazing woman. You're fantastic. Held together with titanium. This probably needs to be to hold someone as awesome as you. And that's a bit sad too when we look at that. That the rest of 25 to 18 and only one talks to me. It's actually a bit like my children too. I've only got 3. I can hold my little finger down for a second. I've only got 3. They are all awesome. But yeah, I only really talk with one of them. Doesn't matter. They're in my heart. They're in my mind. We communicate on another level, so it doesn't matter. Thank you heaps again for all the extra muted reminders. It comes in hindsight. And what I was getting to next after looking through those awesome comments and talking about what it's all about, our children, our family. What I was moving on to next is that I honestly thought, and that's what I was getting into, is the Mandela effect. I honestly thought that my first video upload that I did, because I can remember it clearly, I must have deleted it. God, that upsets me because I wouldn't have. YouTube has deleted several of my videos that I don't even know. I once did a video, completely off track here, but I'm going to mention it because it's relevant, because it's important. I once did a video in the old place where I lived in Clunes, where I had that punching ball thing where you can just, it's on a spring loaded, weighted down, keeps punching back at you. was awesome. It was great fun. Sometimes when you're really, really angry, you can take out a lot of aggression onto it. Sometimes I did. I did a video. It was only less than 3 minutes long. It's very first into Flat Earth, and I was talking about Fight the Flat Earth. It was just a cool video. It was nothing. There's no hate speech. There was no thing. I just wanted to put a picture of his face on the ball. And then as I got a little bit excited and warmed up, I said, stay down. And this is a very strong gym sort of device designed to stay up no matter what. But I just had it into my head to say, stay down. And when I did, it stayed down. I looked at the camera and I go, it's never done that before. Power of speech and intent and physical violence combined. Stay down. Boom. Stayed down. It was just a video. I uploaded it. That video has vanished. I wanted to see it again. I can't find it. It's gone. It's just me punching a punching bag. Such severe intent. Things stayed down. I think it broke something above and beyond what it was supposed to have done. The video, there's no trace of it. I watched it multiple times on that old video channel that I have, my old YouTube channel, if you really must know. Even when I searched for it myself this evening to find that old video, I put in King of Hearts, one word, no capital letters, King of Hearts, 1722, no gap, no nothing. You put that in, I'll even type it here, just to prove I'm not making nothing up, 1722. That there is my original YouTube channel that I first started with. And now if I click on my profile in YouTube and it says switch channels, I have this channel, Iron Horse, and I have that channel, King of Hearts 1722. And even when I clicked on it, I could not find that channel itself. It's sent to a whole heap of other things. That particular video is a standout example of things that have been changed. And I don't want to call it Mandela. I think this one is pure and utter censorship, just deletion, is because what I did in that moment of filming myself, punching a punching bag and saying, stay down, stayed down, changed something. Something forceful came out. And for whatever reason, that video can no longer be found. It may exist on a really, really old device or laptop or something that I have from way back where I might have had to upload it to that first before I could upload it on the YouTube because things were a lot different back then. I may still have a ghost of it, and if I can find it, oh shit. It, to me, was something out of this world. You do not tell something to stay down. It doesn't stay down. Like I had a housemate and his mate some years later, and his mate he's a bluer. He's a fighter. He just wants to fight all the time. And he loves this thing. He was just beating the shit out of it. He wanted to buy it off me. And I said, oh, I don't particularly want to sell it, but I suppose, you give me $50, I guess you can have it. And didn't really want to sell it because I kind of like using it. I've still got it. It's just outside. It's a thing. It bounces back every single time. That's the beauty of it. That's why you like it. For someone who likes fighting, bang, 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 it keeps bouncing back. It's on a big spring-loaded steel thing. It's awesome. Fucking bang, 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 bang. You can spend a long time doing it. And I yelled at it to stay down, and I broke it. It stayed down, and I was like, that's never happened before. The video disappeared. How the fuck does that happen? It wasn't that big of a deal. It was just a video. That's what I can't get. I cannot understand. It's just a video I made. Warning. No warning, no nothing from YouTube. It's just non-existent. The reason I bring it up is because it's to do with the video that I introduced this evening, that very one that I thought was my very first introduction to speaking to a camera. It's not the one I remember. It's got a lot of the information. I hate to think that I deleted the very first one because I was so embarrassed by it. I may have done that. But I'm sitting in that exact same spot because that is on the bed in my house in Clunes. This one here, like put that back to stage. That one.
Night.
That curtain behind me, that was the blind of the bedroom I lived in that house when I made my first video, wearing that exact same shirt, wearing those exact same glasses, wearing that exact same hairdo and that goatee. That video that I made is not this video. A lot of it is very familiar. But I recollect very, very clearly, because I'm so self-conscious and so sensitive and all that sort of stuff. I remember very, very clearly, and that's possibly why I deleted it. And this is nowhere near the first video, is that I was holding a big mug, a big glass mug of the Ishtar Ale, as I called it, a very, very dark beer that gave me superpowers. I kid you not. I built, I designed, I created, I made the best beer ever. It was black and thick and full of so much natural goodness. It gave me superpowers. I shit you not. I shit you not. This might sound like a drunk person ranting, but that was the beginning of me getting back into brewing. When I was living in this house, I was inspired. I made it at Easter time, and that's why I called it Ishtar Ale. It had fucking, you name it, coffee, cinnamon, nutmeg, cardamom, a page-long list of ingredients I put into it, made it, and as it was brewing, the froth coming out the top was so strong. I put it on a home brewing page, and the guy said, "That's the Kraken." The stuff that was coming out, the froth. It was just phenomenal, and it was the most beautiful beer. But you had to You had to open it over the sink, like you had to crack it open with a bottle opener and let 3/4 of the froth come out. And hopefully you have a big glass, you catch most of it. And then have a second glass ready to go. And that one was almost ready to be drink. And then, yeah, you still got nearly 2 glasses out if you didn't spill too much of the froth, but it came out. Cracking. It was something else. And that is what I was drinking in the glass when I made what I thought was this damn video. And it's not this video. That's not the one. Because I remember very, very distinctly drinking from that glass several times. And so when I go back to that channel, which I thought I was just looking at, the video doesn't exist. Have another look. I found this one. It's not it. I've downloaded it. So geez, I keep losing my windows. I'm good at that. So I can't find the one I wanted. I'll add this one to it and I'll have a look at it. I know it won't be it. What's that? I don't want settings. Present. That's what I want. Video file. The rant of May 26th. This was 8 years ago. So this won't be it, I think. We'll have a look.
Beautiful people. Today is the 26th of May.
No, definitely not it.
I thought I had to clarify a few things because
this is definitely not it. See, I'm very distressed because I know for a fact that the one I made was sitting in my bed, in the bedroom. I think my work got cancelled for the day, so that's why I was a little bit upset. So I had a big mug of Ishtar ale. I'm drinking it like this. Even my speech was actually much more nervous than that video, so I know that wasn't it. I'm so upset I can't find it. It's been deleted or whatever. Let's see what idiot me has to say at this stage of time.
I know
I was going to try and play a song.
Get very upset about anybody that appears to be a religious nut, and I get that, you know. Like,
I can hardly hear me.
Turned my back against religion before, and I'm not religious, but neither were the, you know, Christ wasn't a Christian, Buddha wasn't a Buddhist, Muhammad wasn't a Muslim.
I just pause that there because Barbara just says, yeah, Mandela effect change maybe. That's what gets me. Is that I know I've seen the video since that I made because, you know, it was the very first video I made and put on the YouTube. Maybe it's because it was me drinking a beer. I had some sort of epiphany. Oh, I better delete that from the public. But the things that I said in that video about the chemtrails and the dome and everything sort of gels with what I thought I'd said. So it's a great shame. I wonder if there's some way of finding back. Because I'm interested in all sorts of history. And sometimes looking at your own history can be a curiosity. Well, I'm just going to do this now and just look at this one, see what the fuck I have to say.
Blessed be. You know, I just have respect for everybody, for everybody's belief. Beliefs are the most important thing. But one thing I did do is when I sort of started looking into Buddhism and so forth and seeking personal enlightenment, it gave me a greater clarity on the truth of nearly all great spiritual leaders, all great wisdom. And I sort of started reading more and more about Jesus. In fact, interesting story, but I'll save that for another time. What I really want to get to is about Bible bashers and that sort of thing. I don't go for that at all.
It's very difficult to hear, even to myself. But I'll give myself the time of day. Sometimes self-analysis can be very revealing.
And I'm just going to look for his thing here because it's funny that I'm looking in a scripture to find something to refute scriptures, but it's a beautiful book, this one. It's called The Essene Gospel of Peace, Book 1. And you can find it online, www.essene.com, Gospel of Peace /Peace1. Just put in Essene Gospel of Peace into Google, you'll find it.
This was back in the day before you could properly Google, because you had to write the www shit. But anyways, I'm an interesting character, I have to admit.
And it's a really nice read. It talks about our mother and her angels, our Mother Earth, our beautiful mother. And that is who we are children of. The sun is the giver of life, the Son of God. Shoots down billions of sperms all around the universe, allegedly. Who knows? But many of them make it through the sheath of the egg of the earth and give life. She gets pregnant.
I still believe it was a globe.
We are the children living on her, living in her bounty. It's a beautiful, beautiful
An
thing.
egg.
And anyway, I scroll down a bit here, and everybody was talking of Jesus, says, Master, what are the laws of life? The rest of us a while teach us. We would listen to your teaching that we may heal and become righteous. And Jesus himself sat down in their midst and said, I tell you truly, none can be happy except he do the law. And the others answered, we all do the law of Moses, our lawgiver, even as they are written in the Holy Scriptures. Now this is the good bit. Jesus answered, Seek not the law in your Scriptures, for the law is life, whereas the Scripture is dead. I tell you truly, Moses received not his laws from God in writing, but through the living word. The law is living word of living God to living prophets for living men. In everything that is life is the law written. You find it in the grass, in the tree, in the river, in the mountains, in the birds of heaven, in the fishes of the sea. But seek it chiefly in yourselves. For I tell you truly, all living things are nearer to God than the Scripture which is without life. I've got to remember to breathe. I haven't been drinking, and so I don't relax as much. God so made life and all living things that they might by the everlasting word teach the laws of the true God to man. God wrote not the laws in the pages of books, but in your heart and in your spirit. They are in your breath, your blood, your bone, in your flesh, your bowels, your eyes, your ears, and in every little part of your body. They are present in the air, in the water, in the earth, in the plants, in the sunbeams, in the depths and in the heights. They all speak to you that you may understand the tongue and the will of the living God. But you shut your eyes that you may not see, and you shut your ears that you may not hear. I tell you truly that the Scripture is the work of man, but life and all its hosts are the work of our God. Wherefore do you not listen to the words of God which are written in his words? And wherefore do you study the dead Scriptures which are the work of the hands of men? And I strongly recommend you read it.
Wow. Yeah, see? This is the sort of stuff I've known all my life. I've always been talking about it, but you sort of forget because you get influenced by other people. And I mean no offense to people that go by the Bible is, but where did I see it? This one here is, it just says that, why have I got a line in it? I have to make it bigger screen. I have to unhide that. Sorry. But the Mandela Bible changes blow my mind more than anything. It's because I'm playing. Oh, that's why. If I change that, show it again. I'll be able to read it. There we go. Cool. Yeah, the Mandela Bible changes blow my mind more than anything. We've got Nuevo Laredo or Laredo. Hard to pronounce your name since you changed it to Mexican, but otherwise known as Luke Skywalker. Legend. Classic. It's almost sundown here Saturday. Oh, hang on, I can do that again. And I'll have to change that again. There we go. Now I can read it. Almost sundown here Saturday afternoon. 40 degrees hot today, just cracking a coldy, mate. I hear. It was stinking hot here, but we've had thunderstorms brewing all afternoon. And finally now it's breaking rain. So I can just have a coldy under normal temperatures, man. Yeah, I feel you. 37F in Colorado. What's 37F? Like 37 fucked up degrees? Like, come on, 37 centigrade is like boiling hot here in Australia, especially with our humidity. 37 in F is probably like sit inside the fridge for 5 hours, and when you walk out, you'll feel like you're 37 F. That's how I think that would feel. Maybe even spend 5 minutes in the freezer before you hop out. I don't know. It sounds cold. But yeah, here we just do normal temperature. So 0 is freezing, 100 is boiling, and anything in between is really fucking hot, mildly hot, very fucking hot, hot, freezing fucking cold. That's how it works in Australia. It's like there's nothing in between. Like cold all the way up to 18 degrees centigrade, 18, it's 19, fuck, it's hot. Everything above that's hot. That's just how it works. Sea lightning's here. G'day, bro. Sea lightning sees lightning 300 miles away. I reckon we could measure exactly how far we see lightning. So yeah, I'm just looking for an old video because I'm looking for an old video. I can't find the original old video. I thought that I actually did, where I know for a fact I was drinking Ishtar Ale. It was part of it. It was part of the whole narrative. I was expecting when I watched the original that I did previous that I would see myself drinking it, sitting there in my bed all nervous and talking to the camera the first time. I'm very upset that I might have deleted it. But I think YouTube did. They delete a lot of things. But the underlying message of what I said at the very end, when I started to realize, okay, so better find some context. Fuck off, cat. Don't you bite my foot like that. How dare you? Spit my foot. I was just going to go back and rethink before the cat just bit my foot. And it's already been fed, so you can't complain. What I was trying to say is that way back before I became a flat earther, I believed the globe. Fully believed the globe. Believed in the whole heliocentric model. But because I was that little bit of a conspiracy theorist, one of the things that I'd heard about over the years, because I look into everything, without judgment, and I just apply my own what if. It could be possible. If it is possible, how can we make that fit reality? How can I make this fit reality? One of the things I come across was the polar shift. The polar shift. And then this is part of the old globe agenda, I think, of the fear-mongering thing. But it sort of made sense too. when you look at the fossil record and all this stuff, the mud floods. It's possible. It could actually work for the globe. Is that your North Pole and your South Pole, and you got everything rotating, doing all this shit, and then for some reason or another, you have a pole shift, and the destructive forces of that would be so massive. You have massive floods. 99% of the land animals would be wiped out. Probably 80% of the water-dwelling animals might be wiped out, so you get left with a few species. A lot of them will get buried in the silt and create fossils. So, from the global perspective, what I grew up with, like everybody else, after the Big Bang and all that sort of shit, it kind of made sense that could be possible. And so when I'm developing my theory then, therefore, about protecting myself from the fallout of chemtrails and all sorts of other shit, and creating a dome above to protect everything, and therefore all the water that evaporated inside of it would get purified by the sunlight, and then get pure water, trickle back down around the sides. Long story. It is a long story, because you could basically create heaven on earth if you were able to create large enough glass domes and eradicate all the parasites and all that sort of thing, create the ideal environment inside. But what about this polar shift? And so logical me back then thought, well, okay, complete the dome, complete the dome and build it under the earth. So flat earth, dome, complete the dome underground, make a bauble, a huge enclosed bauble of indestructible glass material with a floating island of earth on the middle, not too big, not too small, maybe 30% with 70% oceans. A giant ball will get thrown around through the most tumultuous seas that you could imagine, like bigger than the biggest seas we can see, because obviously we'll get to that, is that if we can make such a huge Noah's Ark, so to speak, out of glass bauble, floating level surface, no matter how much it got tossed around, the most, if you build it to scale, that you'd experience inside of it would be a little bit of tidal. That's where my original video came to say, well, what if they've already done that? What if that's what we're living within? So we are within a huge giant bauble, but the earth is still flat. Within it, sort of everybody gets to win in a way. The concave earthers, because we're living inside of it. The ball earthers, because we are, ball getting tossed around on a massive ocean. Water's separated from water's above. It's a doable sort of thing when you're with that mentality back then, when you think, well, let's say here on Earth today, I'm going to survive the biggest tsunami that's ever happened. If I build a giant glass ball that was big enough to have a big floating island in the middle, technically it could ride out just about anything. No matter how much it got tossed and turned, if I had 50% of it sitting on a surface of water and it's just floating on it, you'd get some earthquakes and shit. You'd go through a lot, but you could pretty much ride out anything. So that's what makes me think is, well, it's the same. What do they call that thing? The simulation world. If we're living in a simulation, Like, what if we created a simulation so good that the inhabitants inside of it didn't even realize they were parts of the simulation? And they were so good because we created it so well that they created a simulation of their own world. And they were so good at it that the simulations inside their world didn't even realize it. And they were created so well that they didn't realize it. You know what I mean? They can keep going back and back and back and back. And therefore, by extrapolation, we have to think, well, what if we're creation of a simulation of people who created it so well that we don't know we're a simulation, and that they are a simulation of another simulation, and so on and so on and so forth. It goes infinite directions either way, in every way, and it's a possibility. So my idea of building a survival bauble inside of a survival bauble inside of a survival bauble inside of a survival bauble might just be the exact same thing, only slightly more organic rather than electronic. But at the tiniest level of what we understand all of reality to be, we still come down to the pixel. And I'm not entirely happy with the idea of the simulation world that we live inside a computer generated simulation. I don't like it. I accept it's possible, entirely possible, except it's entirely likely. I just don't like it. I like to think that we live on an organic earth where the organic stuff happening, growing outside of around us is actually real. The possibility that's not, but it's created to seem real. The way I get around that is you go out and you get an unreal plastic tub and you fill it full of dirt and water and grass and stuff, and you make mud bricks. Make mud bricks. It makes things real. I think that's why they built the pyramids. I think they're just giant mud bricks that a former inhabitant of this realm made to prove it's real. The pyramids are real. I think. What do you know by now? It could all be a simulation. So all gets a bit tricky. I think I've had our see, that's what I didn't do. I didn't click on the new comments. So all those last ones are. There we go. Nuvo Laredo says the simulation is ball earth, if you ask me. Well, that's the beauty of a simulation. You can make it anything you wanted it to be. Because if it is a simulation, it comes back to what every single enlightened master has said in the past, is that everything is within. So according to your beliefs, so it will be. If you live within a simulation, but you're also a mastermind of manipulation, you can make it to be whatever you want it to be. If you're just a definitely have to think about that. I definitely have to think about that. Because I've often thought that the pyramids themselves don't even exist yet. I've thought about that. I've thought about it, that nobody yet knows how to build the pyramids. But what if in the future we work out we just built them as giant mud bricks and we develop time travel, build them in the future, but they still exist in our past because we built them in the past. Therefore, all the architecture and stuff that we still can't even do today that we see from hundreds of years ago when we think people were just going around in horse and buggies building this shit is not yet even built. It does my head in sometimes thinking about it. I had no idea this rant would end up here, but this is the way it goes. That's what I love about having a rant sometimes. Letting it come out as it comes out. I'm pretty sure I wanted to present something. I know what it is now. And it only goes for a minute. Put it in. So this is what we call a railgun projectile, electromagnetic rail. Somehow using the electricity, they can fire these things off far, far, far faster than what they can fire off something like a rocket. You know, a rocket has got fuel blasting out its arse end with a funnel or a cone, whatever, out the back end. Yeah, so we all understand a bit of rocketry, fuel blasting out. This particular projectile that we just saw, probably just small. It's going so fast. Our minds can't really comprehend. We don't need all that noise either. That's Mach 8. That's something I want everybody just to bear in their minds about what real speed is. Everybody on the globe who believes in the globe says that speed is relative. So what is that relative to? It's relative to the ground, to the massive steel or reinforced concrete walls it's being fired through. Mach 8 relative to things standing still, it is a deadly, deadly, deadly projectile that nothing can stand in the way. Nothing that we can make could possibly stand in the way of a projectile hurtling through the air at Mach 8 of speed. And this is the most important thing that I try to tell a glober, is that people who believe the Earth is going around the sun see that? You missed it. It's so fast. It's so enough. The Earth going around the sun is going 10 times faster than that thing. 10 times faster. We're going back 88 through space around the sun, going back 670. Yeah, that's the absurdity of the globe belief. In a nutshell, the Earth is going 10 times faster than that. So as it's spinning, it's only going 1.35 times the speed of sound. So every time it travels 1,600,000 miles through space at Mach 88, it rotates once on the 25,000 mile per hour rotation. So that's why they say it's really slow, because relative to that speed, it is fucking slow. But relative to the speed of the hour hand of a clock, which is 0.0000694 RPMs, the hour hand of a clock, if it's going twice the speed of an hour hand of a clock, so it's half the speed. So it's one of those ones. That's a 24-hour clock. I'll make sure I'm keeping track of time. Is that the 24-hour clock going 0.0000694 RPMs is going exactly the same speed as the rotation of the Earth. Exactly. In RPMs. Extend that hour hand out 4,000 miles, however, and it's going 1.35 times the speed of sound. That railgun projectile was going 8.4, I think. Or was it 8.6? It's going 8.5 times the speed of sound. That's why you have to use super slow motion camera to film it. But the Earth traveling around the sun is going 10 times faster than that as the Earth spins once on its axis. This is the insanity of the globe believer. To seriously believe this and yet convince themselves somehow that because it's so big, it's really, really slow. Sorry, but the bigger it is, the more realistic those speeds would get. You cannot just hand wave dismiss them and say, yeah, well, it's going the speed of paint drying once per day. Yeah, but fucking 8,000 mile diameter, man. It's easy to say that with a paintbrush. I'll swing that around once per day, really, really slow. not a problem. A 4,000-mile long paintbrush swung around once a day, that paint is going 1.35 times the speed of sound. That's the insanity of it all. So this is where I started with just debunking the globe. To believe that the atmosphere is spinning with us at just rotational speed. Forget orbital speed. Forget the sun speed. Forget all of that. Just try and deal with axial rotation speed once in 24 hours at 25,000-mile circumference, 1.35 times the speed of sound. That's how fast the average, ordinary, everyday globe believer thinks the ground beneath their feet is just spinning on its axis all the time. That's what I call insanity. The absolute height of insanity, to believe in something that goes against all your senses, all your observations, all your experiences. You can go and swim in the ocean, swim in the surf. And yet somehow, in your psyche, you have convinced yourself you're spinning towards the east, 1/3 times the speed of sound. Now, most people have a reasonable grasp of the speed of sound. You know, like you might have seen a fighter jet break the sound barrier, and you see that sonic boom, and it's like thunder and lightning all at once. It scares the shit out of you. It's a huge, big deal. It's a massive thing to break the sound barrier. Massive thing. Lightning, that's why we hear the thunder, because it moves faster than that speed of sound, and it's cracking the sound barrier, and it creates the sonic boom that we hear as thunder. And if it happens really close to you, it scares the shit out of you. It can make you jump out of your skin. It's a frightening, frightening thing when something breaks the speed of sound. But to think our ordinary, everyday experiences, you and I are sitting here right now, we're going 1/3 times the speed of sound. But that's nothing. That is nothing. Because we're orbiting the sun at 66,600 miles per hour, that's about 86.8. Hang on. Yeah, the average speed of that is 86.8 times the speed of sound. So 1 times the speed of sound breaks the sound barrier. Sounds like lightning. But going 86.8 times the speed of sound is our regular everyday speed around the sun. That's nothing. Obviously, because we're in outer space, aren't we? We just drag our atmosphere with us for whatever reason. But the thing that very few people ever think of is that the spinning ball, taking 365.25 rotations to go around the sun in a year, means in one day, as it travels 1,600,000 miles, as it rotates 25,000 miles on its axis, half that spinning ball is going backwards relative to that orbital thing going around the sun. The other half is going with it, which means, in a roundabout sort of way, if you had a merry-go-round sitting on the back of a truck, and the truck was going 60 miles down the road, and the merry-go-round orbited 4 miles per hour, but those kids on the 4 miles per hour side going backwards relative to the speed of the truck are going a lot slower than the kids going 4 miles per hour with it down the track. You know what I mean? Some are going forward, some are going with. there's plenty of other analogies you can use with theme park rides. I think there's one called a wizard. There's another one called a teacup. The teacup's a good example. As the teacup is spinning around, as it's going around the center, the people on the outside of the teacup are spinning a lot faster with that spin than the people on the inside of the teacup going backwards towards it on the inner side of it. On Earth, if we are spinning 25,000 miles per 24 hours, 1,035 miles per hour, going around the sun 66,600 miles an hour, 86.8 Mach, then the 1.35 Mach going against the 86.8 Mach is going almost Mach 2 backwards relative to it. The other side going with it is going almost Mach 2 with it, in the roundabout sort of thing, but every single place is constantly changing. So the midday side facing the sun is going the slowest. The midnight side away from the sun is going the fastest, because that's the outer perimeter of the orbit around the sun, 8,000 mile diameter. A Mach 4 difference between midday and midnight. The people going at midnight are going Mach 4 or 3.5. We'll call it 3.5. Going Mach 3.5 faster than the people going backwards relative to it at midday. That's why at midday, everything's going really slow. Oh, fuck. But at midnight, you go, time is flying, I better go sleep. I think that's how it works, because time is flying so fast. Must be. What other excuse could you have there? Since it's now 7:24 p.m., time is starting to speed up again. We're getting close to only 4 more hours and a half till midnight. We're going to top Mach 88. I've calculated before. I can't think of it. Let's just say 88.4. I think that's it. We're going an average of 86.8. But when we hit the front side, start going backwards again. We wake up in the morning, we feel refreshed, we're going backwards in time now. Let's get on for another day. That's how it works. All right. Really? Sorry, I went up a bit of a rant there. I think what we can conclude from that is, once you come to your senses and realize that the Earth is flat and the sun just goes around us, is you can basically just live at normal time anytime you like and realize, so the sun has gone there. Eventually it'll come down back around over here again at 6 in the morning. And then it's overhead will reflect on my sundial exactly 12 midday. And that's what the sun does every day. I think it's the most important thing to understand is time. I saw this awesome video that I wish I could remember it. I think it might have been I can't think of it, but it's interesting. What it suggests is that time is relative to temperature, and that everything is vibrating to a certain frequency because of the temperature. And here in this realm, the sun is the keeper of temperature. It's what goes around and keeps coming around and controls the weather and the light interacting with all the molecules of everything of existence determines the temperature. But see and hear this. I don't want to misrepresent it. The idea is that, let's say, the Antarctic ice wall is the limits of the frequency of our temperature. And therefore, as everything slows down, if you could put your hand through the ice wall, like theoretically, your hand would go into a timeless experience, and that's what we call frozen in time. You can be frozen in time. And then when I've seen videos of it with fish, frozen fish, it's that frozen, put into a tub of water, warmed up, circulated water. Next thing they start swimming again. They're reanimated. I'm not trying to say anything here. I'm trying to say a lot without saying too much. I'd suggest everybody make up their own mind. But what I'm thinking is that this realm, the physical dimension, is associated with temperature. And that outside of this physical realm, our physical bodies obviously can't exist because we need warm blood, our cellular activity, our breathing functions, our whole vestibular, our nervous system, everything works because of the temperature that we exist upon. But in other dimensions, they could exist outside of temperature. In other words, frozen. Because consciousness itself is not necessarily reliant upon our physical structure. When we sleep at night, we can have dreams of realms outside of physicality that seem just as real. We only need the conscious realm, conscious structure to exist here in this temperature. Because we need our physical bodies, because two and two together means we keep coming back to the same recurring dream. God. Holy shit. I didn't really want to go there, but that's where I got. Pour that one into me and find me another one. I need it. Holy crap. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Yes, of course I had another one. Oh, I didn't come this far. Sorry for that. Thing was broken. No children were harmed in the making of this video. Where was I going with that? Temperature. 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 The physical realm so much sense. The hearth, what you have around the fireplace, the hearth, the earth, the heart, the warmth. Even like there's my fireplace. There you go. It makes so much sense. The fire within is literally what pyramid means. Pyre, amid, pyramid. All right. So I'm not really trying to do anything groundbreaking here with this, but the fire within, maybe all I know is I need more beer. I only came here to have a drink. I didn't expect to go for 2.5 hours already. Did not expect that at all. But it is what it is. Everything is what it is. I was nearly touching upon something. And again, I wish I could think of which place I found it, because I would download the video and upload it so I could discuss it while we talk about it. Because what it's basically saying is time only exists where there's heat, where it's ice. Time stops. My experiences, which I can sort of talk about, what I've had, I don't know exactly what you call it. I wouldn't call it near-death experience, but I'd call it something like that, When you go to these other dimensions, there is no time. There is no time. That's the only way I can explain it. And so if it's all frozen in ice, light can still travel or exist or be or whatever in light, then that to me suggests that beyond our physical life, consciousness existence can exist outside of time. I guess that's all I can really say about it. I'm definitely not suggesting anybody try and find out for themselves. Hey, but I sometimes think on top of that sugar mountain, this thing's not. Sometimes think that living forever, the body of God, is actually the ultimate goal. Eternal life, Most people get persecuted for, oh, he's a demon or he's Satan anymore. In the past, such people were revered as gods because they lived for so long. That makes me wonder. It makes me wonder, like simulation theory, organic world, organic life. Put it all together. I think the ultimate goal of it all is to live forever. And I don't think you can cheat the system. That's the thing. You can't cheat it. You can't just say, oh, I'll have some surgery or somebody. Sorry, Jehovah's daughter I honestly did not even think when I said that out loud, because I know that you've had plenty of surgery holding yourself together, and that's, yeah. I'm just saying that that's not part of the original design. It has to be done organically. And seriously, 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 nothing personal at all. You know, everybody's on their own path, their own journey, and doing what they're doing. And that's why I'm often reluctant to speak, because I know that, yeah, I honestly do not want to say anything offensive to anybody, no matter how much I project my thoughts out into the world. Now that I'm drunk enough to do it. Yeah. Obviously, you got to keep your motor running. You know what I mean? Whatever it takes. And it's not to do with the physical, it's to do with the I guess you'd call it this, the soul. The soul is a good a word as any. The who of who we are. We all have one. It all exists beyond the body, but sometimes, you know, there are situations where a certain soul gets shocked so badly from their current experience that they don't know how to deal with it. And that's why we have all this psychic phenomenon and all sorts of, you know, I love looking at all these haunted houses and ghost story type of stuff sometimes, and trying to actually just mentally analyze what exactly has happened. So when somebody gets murdered in an extraordinary experience, quite often they don't even realize they've been murdered. So from the perspective they were in at the time, they get sort of stuck in a certain time. And that's why they end up haunting a place, a physical place, through time. Whereas we, as physical people, we sort of move through time. Certain energetic beings are stuck in between. They can't move between the walls, and they get so frustrated. And that's why they're able to slam open cupboards and throw glasses against the wall, all that sort of stuff, because they're stuck in between the dimensions because of something traumatic that's happened. Again, it goes back to the whole mastermind mentality of, according to your beliefs, so it will be. A lot of these people didn't know that. They had no idea that they were in power of their own future. So the idea is to be aware, to be conscious, to keep on building on your own consciousness and say, well, if according to my beliefs, so it will be, then how about I believe in something that I want to be, and I'll make that be. Mental projection. I want beer, give me beer. I just gave you beer. Thank you, me. I wanted, I got. I projected into the future. Future me is going to want beer. Supply of beer. Here I am right now. Drinking beer, someone. I made it happen. Imagine what we could make happen if we had a vision. I actually have that vision. I don't mean to brag, but thought about it a lot. I mean, you've obviously seen I've talked about the domes. It's a great idea, but it's a lot of work and effort to make that come into being. But the easiest and most practical and logical way to do it is to just start growing hemp. I've talked about it a little bit in the past, but it's the easiest, most logical way to go about it. Hemp and bamboo, the two fastest growing plants in the world, the two most useful plants in the world. We start going into farmers' paddocks where they've been growing cattle for people to eat their hamburgers at the hamburger fry. It doesn't take much before bigger change than we can imagine. I think I'll say good night. So thanks heaps for listening. Been a pleasure having you in the chat, even though I didn't really pay much attention. You guys are awesome. We'll be making more videos in the near future. I've got a lot to add, and I think that if people could just realize the practical implications of what I'm talking about, start small and grow big. Hemp and bamboo. The implications of that. Wipe out the petroleum industry in less than a year. Gone. No more plastic. Everything renewable. It's renewable because it's solar powered through plants. Solar power plants. We don't need wind turbines. We don't need nothing else. Solar powered plants through hemp and bamboo are sufficient to change the world. In 5 years, the world will be greener than you could imagine. I'll say goodnight and have a good one. Thanks for watching.